How do you look at the current stage in the Pak-US relations, and how do you compare it with some of the previous episodes?
It's a golden period. A golden period is starting for Pakistan-US relations.
The Indians are evasive and reluctant to recognize the US role in timely and amicably diffusing the crisis. What is the reason behind that in your perspective?
I think that the Indians were living in a delusional ecosystem, their own echo chamber. They thought that they were now at par with such powers as the United States, China, and Russian Federation, that they had left Pakistan behind.
How Pakistan can best benefit from the current phase of goodwill and warmth in the Beltway in Washington?
We have a very firm, comprehensive, and multidimensional foundation for cementing our ties and going back to the phases when we've had very good relations with the United States historically.
Should China be worried about Pakistan's improving relations with Washington?
China prefers that Pakistan's relations with the United States should not be turbulent. It doesn't want turbulence in its neighborhood. It wants a stable and peaceful neighborhood.
Viewers, very warm welcome to another episode of V News English program, Perspectives, in which we bring before you the most informed perspectives about the most significant developments which are happening around the world and in this region. Recently, the world has witnessed some high-level diplomatic and military exchanges between Washington and Islamabad. And this has raised concerns in some countries, but also hopes in both Washington and Pakistan. In order to understand the significance and the purpose behind these high-level exchanges, and what does this mean for the bilateral relations between Pakistan and the US and its possible future, we are joined today by perhaps the foremost authority on the subject of Pak-US relations, our former ambassador to the US, Ambassador Masood Khan. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Excellency, let me start off by asking you at the outset that you have looked at Pak-US relations for perhaps more than 4 decades, and you've worked in Washington in several capacities and under several governments. How do you look at the current stage in the Pak-US relations, and how do you compare it with some of the previous episodes?
Well, as a former ambassador of Pakistan to the United States and as a former diplomat who served in Washington in the early 2000s and late 90s, I'm a very happy person because we're seeing fruition of the efforts that have been made by both sides between Pakistan and the United States. So it's a golden period. A golden period is starting for Pakistan-US relations. There were many handicaps in the past. Let me compare 3 periods. 2021, when the United States withdrew from Afghanistan, there was turbulence in our relations. There was miscommunication, and there used to be sharp criticism of Pakistan on the Hill in US Congress. So that was a difficult period. And in fact, many lawmakers would very readily scapegoat Pakistan for their mission failure in Afghanistan. Then I was posted there as ambassador from 2022 to 2024. And this was a difficult period because the Indian interests dominated the scene in Washington, D.C. And India was, of course, a member of Quad. It was also America's frontman in the Indo-Pacific region. And they had propped India as a counterweight to China. So there was very narrow bandwidth for Pakistan, although I struggled with my efforts to convince the US interlocutors to recalibrate the relationship, because I used to point out that, look, for the past several decades, we've been allies, we've had difficult times, and we had good times together as partners and as also people, I mean, two nations and peoples who promoted peace and security in the region and beyond. Also, we collaborated as peacekeepers. So we have very deep roots, very deep foundations of our relationship, and they must be reconfigured, restructured, and let's enter into a new era. And we had some modicum of success, but I'm really pleased to see this dramatic transformation during the Trump administration. I mean, the whole thing started with the approval of this $395 million package for F-16 sustainment. Then President Trump, while addressing the joint session of the US Congress, praised Pakistan and thanked Pakistan. And then there were back channel contacts between the two sides, which, I mean, this was going on before the war between India and Pakistan in May. And then during this May war, our relationship or our efforts kind of climaxed and crystallized into a very strong partnership. And both sides realized that we had mutuality of interests. We also had so many things to share. And and then, of course, the May War, and as you know, that the United States very actively brokered a ceasefire between India and Pakistan because they did not want to turn this war into a nuclear war that would have been catastrophic for the entire world, as a matter of fact, not just for South Asia. And the United States played a very pivotal role in mediating between India and Pakistan. And in the immediate aftermath, we, as good diplomats and statesmen, thanked the United States of America, thanked President Trump. But Indians denied that any mediation whatsoever ever took place. And this incensed Americans in Washington, the leadership, and also the analysts. I mean, this time it was our good fortune that analysts, whether they were in Europe or United States covering the war, they were very objective. They asked for proof of the alleged involvement of Pakistan in the Pahalgam incident and so on. So we had three victories. One was, of course, the military victory. Second was the diplomatic victory. And the third was our narrative was by and large accepted by the Western outlets and also Western chancelleries. So this is very important because this laid the foundation for Pakistan-US relations. The people in Pakistan are keeping account of how many times President Trump has referred to the May War between India and Pakistan. And I think that he mentioned it in Scotland for the 25th time. So I see this warmth on both sides and substantive engagement. It's not just warmth. I can't call it rapprochement because already our relations were very good, but they have entered into a new stage. They are a new productive and constructive phase. And I think that my advice to everybody, to the decision makers, to the stakeholders in Pakistan, is to make the most of this opportunity. Let's ensure that this is not a fleeting moment, that this relationship, this bonhomie would endure.
Excellency, you've been a leading proponent of strategic engagements between Pakistan, US, and several other countries. And you are one of the architects of our strategic narrative as well, which for perhaps almost 2 decades has recognized and appreciated US role in maintaining strategic stability and peace and security in South Asia. And as you just pointed out, in the May War, US played a pivotal and timely role in diffusing and de-escalating the crisis. But it seems that the Indians are evasive and reluctant to recognize the US role in timely and amicably diffusing the crisis. What is the reason behind that, in your perspective?
I think that the Indians were living in a delusional ecosystem, their own echo chamber. They thought that they were now at par with such powers as the United States, China, and Russian Federation, that they had left Pakistan behind. Pakistan was not a peer in the region or even a competitor. So I think this myth that they had cobbled together was shattered by the war and by the non-partisanship that was shown by the United States of America, particularly President Trump and his cabinet ministers. And they were shocked. So they didn't know what to do. So they started lying, as a matter of fact. They started lying through their teeth. Yesterday, you must have listened to two statements. One was by their former Interior Minister Chidambaram, who said that India had absolutely no proof of Pakistan's involvement in the Pahalgam incident. And then the other statement was given by Rajnath Singh in the Lok Sabha. And he was telling lies. He was telling that India had won the war, that they had declared a pause, not an end to the war, and that then Jaishankar comes in and he says that US have absolutely no rule. All these statements were challenged by other parliamentarians there, including Priyanka Gandhi. So what I'm trying to say is that they think that lying repeatedly, would convince their disaffected electorate, because their addressees are their electorate, not the international community. Because if they were communicating with the international community, they would not tell lies. They have become congenital liars when it comes to their strategic policy.
As you rightly pointed out, in the Indo-Pacific strategy, perhaps also as part of the Biden administration's national security strategy, India was recognized as perhaps one of the pivot of the Indo-Pacific strategy. It is part of the Quad. But despite these close strategic defense and intelligence partnerships with Washington, why the US did not diplomatically or militarily support India in the May conflict, and why Modi administration seems to be shy and having difficulties with Washington after this conflict?
There were a number of reasons, because President Trump and his team had been told that India was playing a dualistic game, that on the one hand, they were declaring themselves as strategic partners of the United States, but on the other hand, contrarily, they were cultivating Russian Federation and China. As a matter of fact, they were promoting trade ties between India and China. Second, President Trump was told that during the Ukraine war, India did not side with the United States, did not align its position with the United States interests, and instead what it did, that it bought cheap oil from Russia, cheap oil and gas from Russia, and sold it in the international markets at a very high, exorbitant price. And the third was that as you know, India is a main protagonist in BRICS. And in BRICS, it was leading the countries of BRICS to create an alternate international financial system, international monetary system. And there was some conversation about introducing a new currency, a currency that would compete with dollar. And they had already established this bank, which is called the New Development Bank. So this has disturbed President Trump, because immediately after assuming his position as the president, he warned Indians and BRICS, don't think about an alternate currency. So these are the things. The other thing is, I'll try to take you to Washington, D.C., the 2 years that I spent there. And I'll tell you that while India had literal monopoly over all news outlets and also policymaking institutions and they used to always defend India. I mean, India would, in fact, do something very defiant vis-a-vis the United States, but it would be the United States spokespersons who would defend India and try to wash away its violations of diplomatic norms, which undermine their strategic partnership. So I think that there was a parallel narrative which was gaining some traction, and the narrative was that India is duplicitous, that it is not siding with the United States to give it full support. They also realized that India was not even capable of confronting China, or it did not have the political will to go to war with China in the name of China or on the pretext of China. It was accumulating weapons and munitions. So that was dawning on American military-industrial complex and also policy-making circles. And when I went down to CENTCOM, I think during my tenure, and I was surprised to see that entire the CENTCOM leadership, their views coincided with our views, that there should be strategic balance in South Asia, that there should be equilibrium, United States should not have a partisan, one-sided, lopsided tilt towards India. So I think that as it is evident from one of the latest statements of General Kurilla, CENTCOM also prevailed in Washington in steering it away from crass and stark partisanship towards India to a position where it treats India and Pakistan equally. And it has put India and Pakistan on the same pedestal. So I think this rebalancing, this recalibration was very important. That said, I would like to caution that the interests of India and the United States are closely intertwined because of the outsized presence of Indian American community. They are in cabinet positions. They are leading key institutions in the United States of America. India in its own right is a big country, so they do need partners in this region. By they, I mean the United States of America. So I think that while we have this window of opportunity, we must, as I said earlier, make the most of it.
I think that's the most important point for me to further ask you how Pakistan can best benefit from the current phase of goodwill and warmth in the Beltway in Washington. And I want you to specifically first explain the nature of transformation that the Pak-US relations have recently undergone. There is some talks about improving our bilateral trade tariff arrangements, expanding our export markets, offering US investment in the rare earth minerals. So I think there's a lot of talk about building the Pak-US relations and expanding it beyond the security pillar and benefiting from the geoeconomic opportunities that both countries seek. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Yes, I would. As a matter of fact, I mean, let me refer to the meeting between our Deputy Prime Minister and the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. And this was a very significant meeting. I mean, it's one of its prominent points is that it came after the unprecedented and very important meeting between President Trump and Field Marshal Asim Munir last month. And this was very important. This gave a new momentum to our relationship. So I would call this a follow-up meeting in which you had to hold a structured dialogue and you had to identify your bilateral, regional and global agenda. And you had to explore median points, common ground, and this is precisely what the two sides did. But if you look at the press release given by the State Department, there are 4 points, and they're very important. One is that Secretary Rubio thanked Pakistan for its diplomatic role in vis-a-vis Iran. And this is very important. I mean, a special diplomatic role was given to Pakistan, and it was acknowledged and appreciated by the United States of America. Second was Pakistan's role in promoting regional stability, regional and global stability. This was kind of a compliment. So this was acknowledging Pakistan's constructive role. The third was, of course, counterterrorism, our cooperation. We would be expanding our cooperation, particularly in the area of countering ISIS, for instance. And fourth, I mean, you mentioned trade, and we would be discussing, and probably there would be a breakthrough shortly on the tariffs, and also extractive industry, this emerging extractive industry in Pakistan. But for the first time in years, the full spectrum of bilateral relations and regional issues was put on the table. Military-to-military relations were upgraded. Our defense cooperation would go into a new phase. The second thing is that our intel-to-intel cooperation would also increase with the passage of time. It has also been brought to a higher pedestal. And then economic and commercial partnership. It's not just about our exports to the United States of America. Everybody knows that the United States is our biggest export market, and is the most favored destination for our exports. So, and the United States has that distinction as a single country. And this new interest of the United States investors in the extractive industry, lithium, you have rare earth elements, copper, and many other critical minerals. So these are the areas, of course, you can add to that. Renewables, United States has been investing in renewables for a very long time. And so we have a very firm, comprehensive, and multidimensional foundation for cementing our ties and going back to the phases when we've had very good relations with the United States historically.
Excellency, while Pakistan is basking in the attention and goodwill of Washington in the last few months, you've served as Pakistan's ambassador to China as well, and you know the nature of Pakistan-China relations as well. So do you think, should China be worried about Pakistan's improving relations with Washington?
I would say not at all. As a matter of fact, China has a multi-year, multi-decade policy. They are preparing for their 100th anniversary since independence, and the year would be 2049. China has galloped ahead and has become a very strong nation economically and militarily. It's a transcontinental power through the instrumentality of the Belt and Road Initiative. So, and we're fortunate to have had very close friendly ties with China. We have strategic cooperative relationship with China. And the roots of our friendship and partnerships are very, very, very deep. So I think that will not be affected by our growing relations with the United States. When I used to be in China, in Beijing, as ambassador, I remember in 2011, there used to be lots of turbulence. I mean, you had Osama bin Laden, and you had many other incidents, the Salala incident earlier. Then there was an American operative who had killed 2 people in Lahore. So, and therefore our relations with the United States were strained. But at that time, the Chinese government, Chinese leaders, they advised us to improve relations with the United States and remove misgivings. And they gave the same advice to the United States of America. I can take you back to 2008 after the Mumbai attack, and then China, for the first time, did shuttle diplomacy between Delhi and Islamabad. And of course, it involved the United States in this effort. So I think that China prefers that Pakistan's relations with the United States should not be turbulent. It doesn't want turbulence in its neighborhood. It wants a stable and peaceful neighborhood. And that neighborhood includes, of course, South Asia, Central Asia, West Asia. And this helps it promote its own international and global agenda. So I don't think that in Beijing there would be any second thoughts about strong partnership between Pakistan and the People's Republic of China. And it was demonstrated recently during Field Marshal Asim Munir's visit to Beijing. He was received with warmth by Vice President of the PRC, Mr. Han Cheng, and Mr. Wang Yi. He had talks with Mr. Wang Yi. And what are the messages coming out of that meeting? First is that they praised the armed forces of Pakistan. They said that the armed forces of Pakistan are very professional. They safeguard the interests of Pakistan, and they contribute to regional peace. This is a big recognition coming from the leadership of China. Second, they said that they would deepen their partnership. For instance, in the area of counterterrorism, we would be increasing intelligence sharing. We would have joint training programs. We would also be getting more equipment, state-of-the-art equipment from China to combat terrorism. But more important than that, I think that the underpinnings of this relationship, which scaffold the strategic cooperative model, is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. I think that its early harvest projects have already been completed, and we are on our way to complete the rest of the projects. They should be complete by 2030 or 2035 at the latest. So I would say that our relations are very strong, and this kind of relationship, this kind of improvement in our relations with the United States of America is not going to make our, what do we call ourselves? We are iron brothers, or we say that this partnership would not experience any fragility.
My last question is to ask you about your assessment of Pakistan's diplomatic profile, particularly after the May conflict. Pakistan's military leadership, diplomatic leadership, political leadership, as you rightly pointed out, has been welcomed, appreciated across the world at both existing, resurgent, or emerging world powers. I want your assessment that where do you see Pakistan's diplomatic status right now and in the days to come?
Well, I would say that after the May war between India and Pakistan, our diplomatic stature skyrocketed, our diplomatic prestige skyrocketed, and we were respected in all the capitals all around the world. Our Air Force was seen as a hero throughout the world, in the Western capitals and also in Latin America, also in the Muslim countries. And its example was given. And this was done by the international media, not by Pakistani media. So it had an impact on diplomacy. But Pakistan has been taking initiative after initiative to enhance its diplomatic profile and to emerge as a protagonist for peace and security in the region. For instance, there was a trilateral meeting between China hosted it. This was a trilateral meeting. China hosted it, and Afghanistan and Pakistan participated. We talked about the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor extending to Afghanistan. And this helped us ease tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And then, of course, you would remember that our foreign minister had visited Kabul in April. And this was followed up by another visit, his visit to Kabul, during which there was an agreement to start this Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan railway project. Now, this is a very big development.
Indeed.
And on top of that, Russian Federation, some time ago, their leadership had offered to build a railroad from Moscow to Karachi. So these are the results of our diplomacy. You're also respected. Pakistan is also respected in the Gulf region. And I always say that in the West Asian hemisphere, Pakistan is the most consequential country for now and in the future. And therefore, this is a sheer coincidence that on top of everything, we are the non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, where we take principled stand on all burning issues. So I think that overall Pakistan's diplomatic profile is very high. You contrast it with the kind of beating that India is getting from all four corners of the world, and also from their own people, as a matter of fact. They don't trust their government. And that's why I think that, as I said repeatedly, that this is yet another moment, yet another opportunity for us to keep moving in this positive trajectory, and make Pakistan great. Make Pakistan, and we should also prepare for 2047, when Pakistan will complete 100 years of its independence. And let's fulfill all the promises that we have made to the succeeding generations.
Excellency, thank you so much. And ending on an optimistic note, that Pakistan offers hope, stability, opportunity, cooperation, and peace, not just to its own people, to the region, but to the world. And like our great founder once said, that we will not be found wanting in promoting peace and security around the world. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing your very valuable insights about Pak-US relations, its past, but also its promising future. Thank you so much.